February 14th. To most, it's a day of roses, candlelit dinners, and declarations of love. A day where hearts race with excitement, hands tremble as they open cards, and memories are made in the glow of flickering candles. But what if I told you that for one small town, February 14th became a day they'd never forget, a day marked not by love but by fear? This is the story of Carter's Ridge, a town where Valentine's Day became something entirely unforgettable. Let me introduce you to them. First, there was Julie Reardon, a 24-year-old school teacher who was adored by her students. She was last seen leaving her classroom, her bag packed with Valentine's cards, handmade by her third graders. Then there was Peter Miles, a widowed hardware store owner in his 50s. Peter had no plans for the holiday. He spent the evening closing up shop as he always did. The next morning, his store was found unlocked, the cash register untouched. And finally, Emma and Tyler Carlson, a teenage couple who decided to spend the evening stargazing near the old watchtower just outside town. They'd been together for 2 years and were inseparable. These weren't people with enemies. They didn't lead secret lives. They were ordinary, good people. So what could have caused 4 people, each from different walks of life, to vanish on the same night? That's what the police and the town struggled to understand. The morning of February 15th was chaotic. Families called the police, friends organized search parties, and rumors spread like wildfire. Authorities combed through every inch of Carter's Ridge. The school, the hardware store, the watchtower. It was all searched. But there were no footprints in the snow, no signs of a struggle, nothing. Then something strange happened. Around noon, a Valentine's Day card was found pinned to the bulletin board in the town square. It wasn't there earlier that morning. The card was simple red paper, gold trim, no signature. Inside it read, "To my forever Valentines, you'll always be with me." It was cryptic and unsettling, and it was only the beginning. The screen zooms in on an unsettling recreation of the card, the words lingering on the screen for a moment too long. The card was a mystery, but it wasn't the only clue. Over the next week, more cards began appearing around town, tucked into mailboxes, slipped under doors, taped to shop windows. Each one carried a similar message, always hinting at love, but with an undertone that made everyone's skin crawl. Theories spread like wildfire. Some believed the disappearances were the work of a scorned lover seeking revenge. Others whispered about the old folklore surrounding Carter's Ridge, a story about a woman named Lila, who was said to have been jilted at the altar and cursed Valentine's Day for eternity. The police were at a loss. There were no suspects, no motives, no evidence. The only thing tying the disappearances together was the date, February 14th. As the weeks turned into months, Carter's Ridge changed. People locked their doors earlier. Parents kept a closer eye on their children, and Valentine's Day was no longer a celebration. The Lovers' Festival was canceled indefinitely, but the cards didn't stop. Every year, without fail, a new card would appear on February 14th. Sometimes it was in the middle of the town square. Other times it was found on the front steps of one of the missing persons' families. The message was always the same. "To my forever Valentines, you'll always be with me." It became a tradition of dread, a reminder of what had been lost and what might still be out there. In 2003, a decade after the disappearances, a young journalist named Clara Howard decided to investigate the case. She spent months interviewing locals, digging through police files, and piecing together timelines. What she uncovered was chilling. Clara found records of similar disappearances in nearby towns, always on February 14th, always with no evidence left behind. But here's where it gets strange. The earliest case she found was from 1947. That's when Clara noticed something else. In every town where these disappearances occurred, the same Valentine's Day cards had been reported. Identical handwriting, identical messages, as if the same person or thing was responsible. Today, Carter's Ridge remains haunted by its past. New families have moved in, unaware of the history, but the old-timers still avoid the square on February 14th. They say you can feel something in the air, A heaviness, a silence that doesn't feel natural, and as for the cards, they still appear. Last year, one was found on the doorstep of the town hall. Inside it read, "To my forever Valentines, you'll always be with me." No one knows who or what leaves them. No one knows why the disappearances stopped after 1993. But one thing is certain for the people of Carter's Ridge: Valentine's Day will never be the same. But there's something I didn't tell you yet. Something Clara Howard found just weeks before she disappeared herself in 2005. That's right, Clara's investigation didn't just stop abruptly, it ended with her vanishing on February 14th, just like the others. Before she vanished, Clara mailed a letter to her editor, one that didn't arrive until days after her disappearance. Inside, she included a copy of one of the Valentine's cards and a series of handwritten notes. It was a warning, written in hurried scrawl: don't ignore the connections. The names, the dates, they all mean something. Her last words were chilling: "I know who or what it is, but it's already too late for me." To this day, no one knows what Clara discovered or why she disappeared. Her notes were confiscated by the police, and her case remains unsolved. But here's what makes it even stranger. After Clara vanished, the cards stopped appearing in nearby towns. Instead, every single year since 2005, they've only appeared in Carter's Ridge. Let's go back to what Clara mentioned, the names. In her notes, she'd listed out all the people who disappeared across the decades, spanning different towns in different years. On the surface, they seemed unrelated. But as Clara dug deeper, she noticed something: every single name was connected to Carter's Ridge in some way. Julie Reardon, the school teacher. Her great-grandmother had grown up in Carter's Ridge before moving away. Peter Miles, the widowed hardware store owner. His late wife was born in the town. Even Emma and Tyler, the teenage couple, had distant relatives who once lived there. The connections were subtle, hidden beneath layers of time and genealogy, but undeniable. It was as if Carter's Ridge was the common thread pulling these people together. But why? And why only on February 14th? In the 1800s, Carter's Ridge wasn't known for love. It was known for tragedy. In 1887, a fire broke out during a winter festival in the town square. It started in a small wooden chapel, where dozens of couples had gathered for a Valentine's Day celebration. The fire spread quickly, trapping 42 people inside. None of them survived. The town buried the victims in a mass grave, marking it with a single stone that read, "Forever in our hearts." But here's the thing, no one talks about it. The story was erased from official town records, and most modern residents have no idea the tragedy ever happened. But Clara knew. Her final notes mentioned the fire and its victims. She believed the disappearances were connected to this forgotten event. She even suggested that some of the missing people were descendants of the fire's victims. If true, this wasn't random, it was deliberate. A pattern repeating itself every February 14th, as if the past refused to stay buried. Today, the mass grave is hidden deep in the woods, overgrown with moss and surrounded by silence. I visited it last year. Yes, I've been to Carter's Ridge. The stone is still there, weathered and cracked, but the words are just barely legible: "Forever in our hearts." Standing there, in that eerie quiet, I couldn't help but feel a chill run down my spine. It wasn't just the wind or the cold. It felt like being watched. And here's the part that haunts me. When I left, I found something waiting for me back at my car. A card, red paper, gold trim, no signature. Inside it read, "To my forever Valentines, you'll always be with me." It's one thing to research a story. It's another thing to live it. So now I leave the mystery in your hands. Is it a curse tied to the fire, a disturbed individual targeting those connected to Carter's Ridge, or is it something else entirely, something we can't explain? And most importantly, why has no one stopped it? What happens when February 14th rolls around again? Will there be another card, another disappearance, or will the past finally rest? For now, all we can do is watch, wait, and remember the words Clara Howard left behind. It's already too late for me. If you ever find yourself targeting those connected to Carter's Ridge, Or is it something else entirely, something we can't explain? And most importantly, why has no one stopped it? What happens when February 14th rolls around again? Will there be another card, another disappearance, or will the past finally rest? For now, all we can do is watch, wait, and remember the words Clara Howard left behind. It's already too late for me. If you ever find yourself in Carter's Ridge and you stumble upon a red card on Valentine's Day, will you open it? Before we end, there's one more thing I need to share. Something I didn't include in the main story. After Clara Howard's disappearance, the town seemed to settle back into uneasy silence. But in 2015, 10 years after her vanishing, an old shoebox was discovered in the attic of her family home. Inside were letters she'd written to herself during her investigation, detailing things she couldn't yet prove or didn't want to say out loud. One of the letters stood out. It was dated February 10, 2005, just 4 days before she vanished. In it, Clara wrote something cryptic, something no one has been able to make sense of. The cards are a key. They're more than a message. Look closer, beneath the ink. There's something there, something they didn't want me to see. What did she mean by beneath the ink? Was it a literal clue or something metaphorical? Unfortunately, the cards she referenced were never found in the box. Either they'd been destroyed or someone took them. And here's where things get even stranger. In 2020, a small group of amateur investigators, locals and out-of-town enthusiasts obsessed with the mystery decided to revisit Carter's Ridge on February 14th. They gathered at the old watchtower, one of the last places Emma and Tyler were seen. And as the clock struck midnight, they reported hearing faint laughter echoing through the trees. They said it sounded like children, but no one else was there. The next morning, when they returned to their cars, they found something waiting for them. 5 identical Valentine's Day cards. Each one read, "To my forever Valentines, you'll always be with me." The investigators didn't open the cards until days later. And when they did, they found something unusual. Faint markings on the paper, almost invisible to the naked eye. Under UV light, the markings formed a pattern, a map of Carter's Ridge. The map led to a location deep in the woods, far beyond where the town's boundaries officially end. When they followed it, they found the remnants of an old cabin, half buried under snow, its roof caved in, its walls scorched with fire damage. Inside, they found nothing but ash and silence. But etched into the back wall, carved deep into the wood, was the same message that haunted the cards. "To my forever Valentines, you'll always be with me." No one knows who built the cabin or how it burned down, but some locals believe it was connected to the fire from 1887, the place where it all began. Others think it was a cruel joke, a hoax orchestrated by someone desperate for attention. But the investigators didn't stay long. They said the air around the cabin felt wrong, heavy, as if they weren't alone. They left before sundown and vowed never to return. And so the mystery continues. Clara's clue about the cards remains unsolved. The cabin in the woods lies abandoned, its secrets buried in ash and snow, and every February 14th, Carter's Ridge braces for what might come next. The question remains, is the story of Carter's Ridge a cautionary tale of grief and loss? Or is it something far more dangerous? Something that refuses to rest until its purpose is fulfilled? Just when we thought we'd reached the end of the mystery, something unexpected happened. A discovery that changed everything. In 2024, a construction crew clearing land near the outskirts of Carter's Ridge stumbled upon an underground root cellar, one that wasn't on any map. Hidden beneath years of overgrowth, it looked as though it hadn't been touched in over a century. Inside, they found only 2 things. A single lantern, its wick burnt out long ago, and an envelope perfectly preserved sealed with red wax in the shape of a heart. When the envelope was opened, its contents raised more questions than answers. First, there was a list of names. Familiar names. Julie Reardon, Peter Miles, Emma Carlson, Tyler Carlson, Clara Howard. All the people who had disappeared on February 14th. But it didn't stop there. The list included names of individuals from nearby towns stretching back decades, names that had never been connected to the mystery before. And at the bottom of the list, in faint, almost trembling handwriting, was a final line: "It's not finished." The second item in the envelope was even stranger, a hand-drawn sketch of Carter's Ridge. But it wasn't the Carter's Ridge we know today. The map depicted the town as it might have looked over a century ago, with a clear focal point, a large ornate building labeled Lover's Haven. Lover's Haven doesn't exist anymore, at least not as a physical building, but historical records confirm that it was once the centerpiece of Carter's Ridge, a grand ballroom where couples from all over the region came to celebrate Valentine's Day. And here's the chilling part: Lover's Haven was the site of the 1887 fire. Clara Howard had suspected the fire held the key to the mystery, but this map revealed something she hadn't discovered: a tunnel beneath the ballroom leading into the woods. The tunnel's purpose was never documented. Some believed it was an escape route, while others whispered it was used for something else entirely. In December 2024, a group of researchers gained permission to excavate the site where Lover's Haven once stood. What they found was astonishing. Beneath layers of rubble and ash, they uncovered the entrance to the tunnel. It was narrow and dark, the air inside thick with the weight of decades. The team followed the tunnel for nearly half a mile before it ended abruptly in a small circular chamber. Inside the chamber, they found carvings on the walls: hearts, names, dates. But the most prominent carving was a single sentence, etched deeply into the stone: "Love eternal, by any means." In the center of the chamber lay a table. On it sat a stack of cards, red paper, gold trim, identical to the ones left around town. But these cards were blank. No writing, no messages, just the haunting emptiness of a story waiting to be written. The discovery of the chamber raises more questions than answers. Were the cards left behind as part of a ritual? Were the names on the envelope a warning or a promise? And why does the phrase "love eternal, by any means" echo through every piece of this puzzle? Some believe the chamber is the source of the mystery, a place where something ancient or malevolent was awakened. Others think it's a shrine, created by someone who refused to let go of their loss. And then there are those who believe the chamber is still active, that the cards found there are waiting for the next names to be added to the list. As February 14th approaches again, the people of Carter's Ridge live with unease. The cards have already begun to appear, one on the doorstep of the mayor, another at the school, and one pinned to the bulletin board in the town square. Each one bears the same chilling message: "To my forever Valentines, you'll always be with me." But this year there's something different. Each card is accompanied by a name, a new name, and one of those names might be yours. Would you dare to open it? After the cards appeared this year, the mayor of Carter's Ridge issued an official statement. It was short and vague, claiming the town was safe and urging residents to carry on as normal. But behind closed doors, whispers grew louder, because for the first time in over a decade, one of the cards wasn't addressed to a person, it was addressed to a place. The card pinned to the bulletin board at the town square simply said, "For the heart of Carter's Ridge, February 14th, 2025. No one knows what it means. But if the stories are true, then we have less than 3 weeks to find out. The news spread like wildfire, both within and beyond Carter's Ridge. Paranormal investigators, conspiracy theorists, and even true crime enthusiasts began flocking to the town. Some hoped to catch a glimpse of the mysterious cards, others hoped to uncover the truth behind the Valentine's Day disappearances. But the locals were different. They weren't searching for answers. They were preparing for something. Homes have been boarded up. Families are leaving town, vowing not to return until February has passed. Even the town's historical society, once proud of its heritage, has locked its doors indefinitely. One member anonymously confessed, "This year feels wrong, different. Like something big is coming." But not everyone is afraid. Some residents believe the card is a sign of closure, that whatever has haunted Carter's Ridge for so long is finally coming to an end. Others are convinced it's a trap, designed to lure people in just as it has before. In response to the growing panic, a small group of residents has organized what they're calling the Valentines Vigil. They plan to gather in the town square on February 14th, at the exact time the cards have traditionally appeared, midnight. They believe that if they confront the mystery head-on, they might finally break the cycle. They've invited anyone brave enough to join them. But there's a catch. Every member of the group has ties to someone on Clara Howard's list. Children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. They all share the same uneasy connection to the town's tragic past. One of the organizers, 70-year-old Edith Parker, had this to say: "If it's us they want, then it's us they'll get. But we're not running anymore." This ends here. Their plan is bold. But is it wise? Meanwhile, there's been one last development, a discovery so strange it hasn't even been shared with the residents of Carter's Ridge. In early January, a local hiker stumbled upon an object buried near the edge of the woods. It was small, wrapped tightly in cloth, and tied with a faded red ribbon. When he unwrapped it, he found a locket. Inside the locket was a picture of a young couple, smiling, their faces frozen in time. But the back of the locket is what caught his attention. Engraved in delicate script were two words: eternal bond. When the hiker handed the locket over to authorities, they were stunned. The couple in the photograph, they were two of the victims from the 1887 fire. But the locket's condition made no sense. It wasn't scorched, rusted, or weathered by time. It looked as though it had been buried just yesterday. So now we wait. With February 14th fast approaching, Carter's Ridge stands at a crossroads. The question isn't just about what will happen this year, it's about whether the past can truly be put to rest. Will the vigil bring answers or more tragedy? Will the locket, the cards, and the chamber finally reveal their secrets? Or is this just the beginning of something far more dangerous? For those brave enough to stay in Carter's Ridge, the countdown has begun. And for the rest of us watching from the outside, we're left with one final thought: if love is eternal, how far would someone or something go to prove it? As the mystery deepens, I want to hear from you. What would you do if you were in Carter's Ridge on February 14th? Would you join the vigil? Would you run? Or would you stay silent, waiting for the truth to find you? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to uncover more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to The Forgotten Tomb. This isn't just a story, it's a warning. Be careful where love takes you. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and remember, some mysteries are better left unopened.